In this video, we'll be going over managing groups within the Verizon One Talk Portal. To get to the One Talk Portal, you'll log into your Verizon My Business portal, click Manage, Product Portals, and One Talk. Keep in mind, when you log into My Biz, it's going to go to the landing page with billing and other actions you can do from there. As you can see at the top, you hit the little plus sign. You can already see that I have plenty of groups in here, but some reasons why you would make separate groups would be if you have individual locations, if you have individual departments that you might want to segment out for management purposes. And as far as managing, you can organize that way so it's easier for the admin to keep track of users and whatnot. Caller ID to a certain extent could be managed a little bit easier on the group level. Obviously, different time zones, you would definitely want to make sure they're in their own groups. Different extension lengths to an extent as well. If one location has 2-digit and one has 4-digit, then sometimes you want to break it up that way. Now, keep in mind, if you're trying to find someone, if you have a bunch of different groups, and you're trying to find someone's direct dial number, or if you're trying to find a specific hunt group or auto receptionist, instead of having to go through every one of your groups and go into the hunt groups or manage lines and devices, you can come to search users across all groups. And this is going to be a lifesaver if you have a large account. Because here you can literally put any piece of information in here. So you can put someone's direct dial number in here. You can put someone's device ID. You can put their extension. You can put anything in here, okay, their name. And it'll pop up with that person and their device ID. So any piece of the puzzle you have, you can put into search users across all groups. So we'll come back home. As far as your groups, you can click Manage Groups to create groups or edit existing groups. So to create a group, you click Create Group, and we'll label this Test Group, and then we, of course, need to pick our time zone. I'll do Eastern. Okay. You can type in Test Group here. Keep in mind, or test, we did test. Keep in mind, you have to have access to all groups and all future groups to see a new group that you created, meaning there are limited accesses you can be granted as an admin. So generally, the super admin or the main POC will have, the person that created the account will have access to everything, right? And then from there, they have to add portal users accordingly. Now, if it's a large company and you want an individual admin at each location to have access to their own location and none of the others, you can do that when you add people. If you want them to have access to all groups, you can do so, but you also have to click the box that says access to all groups and all future groups. If you're creating a group in here and you don't see the group you just created, that means you have limited access and you have to talk to your admin at that point. And we might make a future video about that. So let's come to our test group. We have a couple different test groups, but this one right here. So we have our test group. We have our time zone. You can, of course, just trash the group. Obviously, if there's actual lines in that group, you cannot trash it. You cannot delete it. You'd have to move those lines out first. But once you create that group, you can edit it with the pencil. So here's your group name, your time zone. These are the only two things that you can select when you initially create it. But in here, this is where you select your extension length. Now, again, you can have multiple different groups with different extension lengths. Just keep in mind, the longer the extension length, the more users you can generally have. If you're moving locations over in different projects, just keep in mind, or if you're acquiring new companies, you don't want to have any duplicate extensions. That's pretty much the only no-no. You can also enable the directory here, which we talked about in a previous video. You have to enable it on the individual user level under manage lines and devices, but you also have to enable it on the group level. Now here you can select which group, right? So you can select it where they can only see the directory for their location or their group only, or you can do multiple locations. And in here, you have to select the locations you want, right? Or the groups that you want. You can do a total of 10. So you can select the groups or locations that you want to display on the actual desk phone. And then, of course, add. You can also adjust the park time. We can go over parking in a future video on the individual desk phone, but this is where you adjust the time someone can be parked. It's defaults to 45 seconds. Essentially, if you park someone on an extension, it will bounce back to you, the person that parked it, after 45 seconds if they have not answered that parked call. So this is where you adjust that. Now we'll come back home. You know how to create a group. Now, how do we move users to that group, right? Because generally the account will start out with all the users in one group, or if you add some lines, maybe they get put into the wrong group. It happens, right? So you can manage group members. You can select the group, right? So this is our original group. You can select the group from here that you want the line to come from. Now, again, a little refresher, like we mentioned earlier, if you don't know which group they're in, you can come to search users across all groups. You can say, hey, I don't know what group Jacob is in, right? Jacob, he's in the portal demo group. Okay. So then we'll come back to manage group members. We want to make sure we're under the portal demo group, and then boom, there's Jacob's line. So you can select Jacob's line, and then you can select which group it goes, Jacob's phone goes to, right? So you can just select it. We'll do it just for training purposes. So this will pop up. It probably needs to be read, but this pops up. So this is stating that when you move any lines, whether it be an individual user, a hunt group, an auto receptionist, anything, it will erase all the information on that particular line. So that's okay if you remember to copy down that information. So in the case of a direct dial number for Jacob's phone, what we would want to do is make sure we copy down his extension, his name and how it's labeled, and maybe the email under that line, right? Because you need to go back into managed lines and devices. Once he's in the group that he needs to be in, you'll select the group that he went to. And then, like we mentioned in previous videos, you come to line information and plug back in that extension and user information. Now this goes for hunt groups and auto receptionist, right? So before you move a hunt group, what do we need to do? We need to make sure we know how the hunt group is set up. So we'll want to come into the hunt group. You can take a screenshot, you can take a picture, whatever you need to do to copy down this information. So simultaneously ringing 5 rings to these 2 users. This is the fallout. This is the extension assigned to that hunt group. So we capture that information before we move this hunt group. Now, like I mentioned earlier, if you move Jacob out of this group, but he's in this hunt group, next time you go into this hunt group, you're only going to see John in here because you moved Jacob out of that group. So it also takes them out of any groups or auto receptionists they're in. Same thing for the auto receptionist. We'll want to make sure we capture where those options go. Hopefully we have the recording. We want to make sure what schedules are applied to that particular auto receptionist before we move it across a group. So Lesson kind of word to the wise, if this is a brand new account, we generally want to split the users up into their individual groups or locations before we start setting up call flow and users. That way we're not doubling down our work. So pretty straightforward, managing groups, creating new, editing existing is under manage all groups, and then moving numbers or DIDs or devices would be manage group members.